Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Very well.
It's such a pleasure to be here today. In fact, I was just coming from a school visit where I went to a school today to talk about education and also check on how our schools in Greenwich are doing. And to be here today back at London South East Colleges, Greenwich, is a great thing actually. But more importantly, knowing the fact that I went here and studied at Bromley College, and it just feels good to be back here. And I'm really excited for you guys who are going to have a new campus, but also the opportunity to progress and study and expand and learn. And when I was asked to come and deliver this lecture, I promised myself that I would tell the truth. And the whole truth and nothing but the truth. You see, being a politician comes with many responsibilities, but the one thing that is most influential is your story and how that helps you fulfill your role as a politician. We also live in a highly political world where you can try and tell your story, but many will also try to retell it through a different lens or change the context of your story. And my story is one of perseverance, one of fear, and an unyielding determination to succeed. And I hope it speaks to you today, because as students, you have the opportunity to change your own life and set the direction you want your life and career to take, despite the obstacles or the perceptions you or others place on yourselves. I also want you to know that there are many people along the way in your life and in your journey that will and can help you. But sometimes you will need to ask and go out and step out. So as a former student, I have to say, I never thought I would be here, back here, speaking to you, nor could I ever have predicted I would be speaking here in my capacity of the leader of Greenwich Council. But as I stand here and speak to you, I am that same young man, a bit older now, that was studying for a BTEC level 3 in construction in the Bromley College campus. And that period of my life was so uncertain, but it turned out to be the very place that solidified my determination and my can-do attitude, which boiled down to one moment. One moment on whether I succeed or one moment or whether I fail. And that one moment was I was sitting in my living room, contemplating how awful life was. And my sister walked in and asked me what was wrong. And I wasn't really forthcoming because this moment was not unusual to me. I had been there before. It was the same turn of events I had dealt with my whole life. I was on the cusp of failing my course. And I had to explain to her that I had 2 weeks to complete 13 assignments. And one by one, I brought them all out, placing them on the floor and showing them to her. 13 weeks, 13 assignments to complete in 2 weeks. But this was not new to me. I had been here before, going through education with ups and downs because of health issues. You see, I have what you call sickle cell disease, a chronic blood disease that means my blood turns into a sickle shape and doesn't hold oxygen. An invisible disease that means I can look great on the outside, but be in real pain on the inside. And as such, my life was spent growing up in hospital, missing education. It meant every time I went back to school, I was behind, always playing catch up. It meant I was that kid that had a disability that predominantly affects black people, which many don't understand. It meant being in pain and suffering from strokes at the age of 11. And it meant not having the energy to even carry a teaspoon. It meant that people always looked at you as a health issue and saw your identity through the lens of your health issue. It meant that when people meet me, the first question they ask is not, "Hi, how are you?" It's how. It's, "Hi, how's your health been?" And it meant that you begin to internalize how others see you. You take on those thoughts, you take on those opinions of how others see you. And it meant in that moment, in my living room, my identity was that young man who had health issues, who missed education and could not keep up. It was the worst feeling in the world. You see, I began to blame myself and tell myself to accept defeat. My living room was filled with my frustration, and it was silence. But my sister's voice pierced through, saying, "I think you can do this. I think you can do this. You've got this, and you've done it before." So we set up a timetable where I would arrive at the Bromley College campus from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m, Monday to Friday, and I worked through each assignment. And I did that, but I also asked for help. You see, the Bromley College tutors had an open door policy, which meant I could go and speak to them and ask them questions and get help. And in the 2 weeks, I completed all 13 assignments and submitted them. Submitting those assignments was the best feeling in the world. It renewed a belief in myself where I felt I could do anything if I put my mind to it, despite my physical health challenges. I managed to pass the course with a distinction merit. But what was so important about that moment wasn't necessarily just my grade, but it was my ability to overcome that difficulty. And that wasn't going to be the last time I would be in that situation. But that moment helped prepare me for the challenges that comes with life. I went on to university and suffered the same issues. But the 13 assignments in 2 weeks meant I battled through. I always loved construction and wanted to study civil engineering. But through studying the course, it dawned on me that I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to spend my life talking about structures or where they would mathematically fail or beams. You see, I like people and I liked to dance. I liked to debate. And none of my course colleagues wanted to do any of that. That was my first experience. None of my colleagues wanted to do any of that. But back in Bromley College, I was a member of the student council and helped lead it. And that was my first experience of a form of governance that had to work for people. In this case, it was students. I took this with me to university and got involved in social societies and the student union and absolutely loved it. It sparked my interest in people and in society. But that spark turned into a flame when the London riots occurred. I will never forget that day when I was watching my TV and seeing so much frustration from young people. Frustration from the cuts to youth services, frustration from the increase in tuition fees, and frustration from how the police were treating our young people. You see, the killing of Mark Duggan outraged many communities, but it also added to the well-established frustrations of young people who were feeling unheard at the time. The day after the London riots, I listened to the news, and MP after MP came on TV and called out the many young people who participated in the London riots, thugs, using very charged language. There wasn't anything positive said about the peaceful protesters or the recognition of what young people had been going through in this country. I was frustrated by that. Who speaks for us? Who is telling our story? And that evening I decided to join the Labour Party because it was important that I used my voice to speak about people like me. And the values of the Labour Party were those I most closely aligned with. But that was the night I knew I wanted to be more involved in politics. The last year of uni, I used my time to finish my degree while getting involved in social societies and activities, volunteering and political campaigns. And in the last year of uni, I also spent my time in conflict with myself. I wanted to be involved in politics, but I didn't know how or what I wanted to do. Every time people asked me what you wanted to do, I found myself hiding from my true ambitions. I was afraid. Politics was a field not meant for people like me. I watched MPs on TV and in Parliament and thought, gosh, I can't speak like them. And I became more afraid. Until one day, a friend pulled me aside and said, Anthony, you really do like politics. You really are passionate about it. You should pursue it. And I spent the next few days reflecting on those words, and it brought me back to that moment. That 13 assignments in 2 weeks. You see, sometimes the worst you can do is fail. But the best you can do is try and put an effort in. So I decided I would try. I had done it before. And then I graduated. And when I graduated, I made a promise to myself. I promised myself that I would not spend a day or a moment or a second of my life pursuing a career in engineering. But I would put all my energy and effort and would try politics. I also realized I had to wear it. I also realized I couldn't hide or be afraid. I had to wear it. So everywhere I went and everyone that I spoke to, I said to them, I want to work in politics, which meant I was putting myself out there, but also making others hold me accountable to my words. And when I finally graduated, I was unemployed, sitting at home. I used my time volunteering and building up experience, mainly being unemployed at home. And my mother came into the room one day, really frustrated, asking what I wanted to do. And I told her, Mum, I want to work in politics. You see, at that time, I didn't know how or in which capacity. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in changing our societies. Now, to the best of mums, sometimes your mothers always find themselves thinking, what's my child going to do? But that narrative, I just want to work in politics, wasn't really reassuring for her. But more importantly, remember what I said to you about how others would try and define you. Well, in that moment, she did. She did define me through my health, and she told me she did not feel I had the skill to be a politician. You see, I had missed out on so much education, and her fears began to impact me. She felt I wouldn't cope, but that was her being a mother, protecting me, the mother that took me to hospital, the mother that had to make sure her son was safe and well. And sometimes in life, people will define you through their own fears. And there will be a time in life where those closest to you will look at you through your past or your present. But you will need to be steadfast in what you want to do for your life. You will need to confront your fears and step out from them and live in the vision you have for yourself for the future. Your nearest and dearest will doubt you, but in that moment, her words motivated me because I had already made that promise to myself that nobody was going to stand in my way. And again, it took me back to that moment. 13 assignments in 2 weeks. In the next month, I applied to work in Parliament and I got on an internship. In fact, Councillor Gardner helps me with my application, I can remember. And out of the 600 applicants, I got accepted. And my voluntary experience that I built up being unemployed at home was the very thing that carried me through. It parachuted me into a job I never studied for. And after months of working for the council, I decided to put myself forward and stood to be a councillor. And 4 years later, I put myself forward and stood to be leader. And that's how I stand in front of you today. The person that felt that politics wasn't for them defined that politics was for them. Thank you.